Hey guys, Brad Gilmore here. Want to give a big shout out to our title sponsor, Walker Texas Lawyer. If you or a loved one have been injured in an accident, whether that be a car, truck, motorcycle accident, or some kind of other issue, hit up Walker Texas Lawyer at 713-552-1117 or walkertexaslawyer.com.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Matthew McConaughey.
Brad Gilmore.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Jessica Alba and Lizzie Mathis. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Kevin Costner joins us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Chris Tucker is in the building. Chris Tucker, good morning to you.
Hey, Brad, good morning to you. How are you?
George Lopez joins us right now. George, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What lovely to talk. You me funny lad.
Megan Trainor.
Thank you so much, Brad. You're awesome.
Chloe Bailey joins us. I appreciate the time.
Appreciate you.
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat.
Brad Gilmore! All right, well, hey, he's joining me right now. New York Times best-selling author here with his new book, Race Against Terror, Chasing an al-Qaeda Killer at the Dawn of the Forever War. The incomparable Mr. Jake Tapper joins me this morning. Jake, how are you, my friend?
I'm incomparable, apparently. Thank you so much.
You are incomparable. You know, look, I mean, look, I've been reading this book and I have a lot of questions about it, but also just your breadth of your literary career is quite impressive. I mean, we're going back to a biography of Governor Jesse Ventura is how.
Oh, well, now that's old school. That's old school.
You know, let me ask you real quick about Jesse, if I can, just for a second.
Sure.
Because a captivating figure, and used his prowess of pro wrestling in order to get himself into the governor's mansion, which I feel is an apropos example of where politicians are today, chiefly the one who's in the White House currently, using
100%.
pro wrestling in order to achieve that goal.
100%. Look, there was something about Jesse Ventura in 1998, and you're alluding to my very first book, Body Slam, the Jesse Ventura story, which I'm sure you can pick up for 15 cents at a used bookstore somewhere. But in any case, there was something about him in that race that definitely was a precursor for President Trump, because he spoke like a real guy. He was debating two establishment politicians, the Republican mayor of St. Paul, Norm Coleman, and the Democratic, I forget, maybe he was Attorney General or something, Skip Humphrey, who was the son or the grandson of Hubert Humphrey. In any case, and he would go on these debates. He was an independent candidate, and they would be bickering and ignoring him. And then he would say something like, this is what everybody hates about Washington, or this is what people hate about politics. He seemed like a real guy. He had this kind of quirky political positions, wasn't left wing, wasn't right wing. And he, it was kind of lightning in a bottle, because they had same day registration in Minnesota. So lots of people registered to vote in Minnesota that day to vote for him. But yeah, no, you're definitely onto something. I mean, he was Trump before Trump.
Yeah,
Trump has more discipline. I mean, Jesse was basically a one-termer and then kind of flamed out in the political sphere. I think when I wrote that book, I thought to myself, and I wrote this book, I wrote it in a couple months for $10,000 or something. It was not some great investigative work, but I wrote it, and I thought this guy could actually be something if he had any discipline, but I knew he didn't really, and that was proven out. Too bad, because I'm of the view that America could use a thriving third party.
Yeah, and it seemed like he was well on his way, and continued to kind of flirt with the idea of continuing his political career and making a run at the White House, but nothing ever materialized. But you can see the seeds that were planted in the political
100%.
sphere, and pro wrestlers know how to elicit a reaction. And
totally, and also just like there's an authenticity to him that Trump has too, in the sense that people give Trump, the public, not everybody, but people in the public give Trump the benefit of the doubt because they know they think of him differently, and they hold him to a different standard than they hold a normal senator or governor. They expect normal senators and governors to adhere to basic rules of protocol, but Trump, they think of him as a celebrity. They think of him as the guy from The Apprentice, and they think of him as a showman, I think, and they give him more benefit of the doubt than other politicians could get.
It's fascinating. I could talk to you more about Jesse Ventura, but I want to talk about Race Against Terror. I started reading this book, and then I looked at the back.
This is, by the way, I think the first radio interview I've ever done about Jesse Body Slam, the Jesse Ventura story. That was not a major work of mine, so I appreciate it.
Well, you know what? I wanted to bring it up.
Sure. It came out 27 years ago or 26 years ago, but no, I still think he's an interesting character.
Oh, he's completely interesting, and then him going into the Chris Kyle lawsuit and everything. He was really also so instrumental in a lot of the policies that were changed for professional athletes, especially professional wrestlers, and getting their proper rights and a lot of stuff interesting about Jesse Ventura. But Ken Burns had a quote on the back of this book that hit it nail on the head. Is it reads sometimes like a novel. And when I was reading through it, it felt like almost a crime thriller more than a nonfiction, here's the facts of what happened. And I'm assuming that was the intention at some point.
Yes. So sometimes reading nonfiction feels like homework, right? It's not as joyous. It feels instructional, educational. And I didn't want that with this. I've written a few novels, and I took some of the lessons that I learned from the novels to write this like a thriller, like you would write any thriller. And in fact, when I would tell friends about this book while I was working on it, and I would tell them the plot, they pick up an al-Qaeda killer, and then the Americans have this race to prove a case against him, and they're running all over the world finding evidence. About halfway through, a lot of them would say, like, wait, did you make this up, or is this true? And I'd be like, no, it's true. It's all true. But then I thought, like, why not have the reader experience it like a thriller, since it already is such a thriller, and there is this ticking clock, and the deadliest of enemies in the book, the deadliest of bad guys, an al-Qaeda operative who's killed Americans and has vowed to kill more. So why not write it that way? So I did that. I made the chapters shorter, and I made the language more propulsive, and I wanted it to be a page turner. So that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you completely hit the nail on the head, because that's how it reads. It reads like a page turner, and I think sometimes when people see a nonfiction book, especially about a work such as this or a subject such as this, it could be intimidating to pick up, right? And to get through and to read something that can be so dense. But this definitely reads like a page turner. And I can see, like, maybe where some of the influence of I really enjoyed your book, The Devil May Dance.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't read the paper version. I listened to it on audio, and I just enjoyed the kind of experience of living in that world that you created, and I can see how that helped you translate to this book. Now,
The Devil May Dance, just for folks who don't know, I have a 3-book series about a family that lives in Washington, D.C. The first book takes place during the McCarthy era. It's called The Hellfire Club. The second one, the one that I think people like it the best, is it's called The Devil May Dance, and it takes place with the Rat Pack in the early 60s. Yeah.
And I'm all things Rat Pack, and I love that era.
I can tell. Look at you.
I love that era, but
you'd fit right in.
I would love it. But when you talk about this book, correct me if I'm wrong. This idea or this story came to you while you were at a children's birthday party in Virginia. Is that right?
It's true. So it was 3 years ago this month. It was my son Jack's 13th birthday party, and it was a paintball birthday party out in the boonies in Virginia. The kids get all fitted up and they run into the woods, and they're in teams and this and that. And because it's so far away, I have pizza and refreshments for the adults, so they can just come and hang out, enjoy a nice, autumn day, and hang out for an hour and a half instead of having to drive back home and then drive back to Virginia again. And one of the dads approached me and said he had read a different book I'd written about Afghanistan called The Outpost. And I said, yeah, that book was really tough to write because the military keeps really bad records and they don't share them. And he said, tell me about it. And then he proceeded to tell me this story about how he, as a prosecutor, was called and told that the Italians had picked up an al-Qaeda operative. And basically, he and his colleagues had to prove a case against this al-Qaeda killer who had killed service members before the Italians would basically just let him go. And he told me the whole story. And obviously, the military wasn't particularly helpful to him then either, just because they don't have great records of things. And it was just such a captivating story. I couldn't even believe it. And when he was done, I asked the first question that any reporter asks, which is, has anybody covered this before? And he said, people covered the trial of Spingool, but people didn't really know about all the sleuthing, all the investigative stuff, which is what I was most interested in. It's the stuff I love from like CSI and Cold Case and Law and Order. Just how do you catch the bad guy? How do you track him down? How do you prove the case? And it's just so interesting to me. So when he told me the story, I was like, wow, can't believe it.
So, okay, from the moment of this idea popping in your head, no one's covered this aspect of it. I want to go ahead and do it. What is writing process like for you? Because, you hear Stephen King say, oh, I want to write 11 pages a day and I want to do this, that, and the other. And I think writing is such a difficult medium and it's different for everybody. So once you do the research and you start actually writing the book, what's the process for you look like?
Well, the first step was the research.
Right.
And the first step was connecting with Dave Bitcower, that prosecutor, connecting with another prosecutor, connecting with the prosecutor who gave me a Google Docs link where all the evidence from all the trials were. So that's to have court transcripts and everything like that is just an incredible, and the names of all the witnesses and this and that. And then it's basically a process of working on the book every day and a lot of interviews. So like every day I had to do at least one interview or do something related to the book. So I do have the Stephen King rule in the sense of every day, writers write is my rule. Writers write. You have to write every day. And I do 15 minutes a day, at least 15 minutes a day, because everybody has 15 minutes a day. Your busiest day, you have 15 minutes a day. So, And then the other thing I will say is, in addition to the research, once you have the research, then you have the idea of structure. I'm really big into structure. The guy that writes Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, says there are two kinds of writers: gardeners who kind of just go out there and see what they can grow, and architects who build and build and build and then fill in the rooms and then furnish the rooms, etc. I'm definitely an architect, and I think it really helps to have a structure when you're writing. First of all, you can make sure that you have the 3-act structure, the arc of the book. Act 1, chase your hero up a tree. Act 2, throw rocks at your hero in the tree. Act 3, get your hero out of the tree. So that's the basic 3-act arc. And in addition to that, it's also helpful when it comes to, okay, here's my 15 minutes. What's on tap today? And you just go to where you were in your file, and you're like, okay, today I'm writing chapter 4. This is the chapter where the hero is interviewed on a radio station. And then you write that chapter, and then you move on. And, once you have a first draft, you can go in and improve it and make it better. But it's really just like getting stuff on the paper is so important.
Getting stuff on the paper is so important. And you know what? The way that you wrote this book, it definitely shows that you took your time and really thought through each of them. It's called Race Against Terror: Chasing an Al-Qaeda Killer at the Dawn of the Forever War by Jake Tapper. It's available now. I have so many more questions for you, but we're unfortunately out of time. I would love to do this again sometime, Jake.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one, Jake.
You too.